finally, EJ, I wanted to ask you about a Mexican-American prospect, Sebastian Castro. He was a quarterback in high school. Then he went to Iowa, where he replaced Cooper DeJean. He's not the athlete that Cooper DeJean was.
He is not.
No, but he's got instincts. He's got nice instincts, I think. He played the cash position in Iowa, which is a mixture of defensive linebacker, safety, every position. It's a really fun position to scout. And I think his football IQ is really good. 2024 wasn't his best season. I think it was 2023. And I think he's a player who's probably going to fight for his spot in the 53-man roster, maybe practice a squad at the start of his career. But he has some versatility, which works in his favor. His RAS score was awful. Not something we were looking forward to, but it was awful. But in the Senior Bowl, he measured with the seventh fastest time. So I don't know which one to listen to.
Yeah.
But what do you think would be the best role for him in the NFL?
It's going to be tough for him because, like you said, Castro, he's a smart, tough safety who is average athletically. And that's not just the testing. Like on tape, in most situations, he is pretty average athletically. And that hurts him in certain areas because even with good instincts, you got to be able to run. You got to be able to catch guys who are very fast. And he struggled even with that in college. And the guys are only going to get faster. So that's difficult. And we see this every year, not just with safeties, but with quarterbacks whose arm, don't measure up to throws that they need to make in the NFL, to receivers who aren't able to jump high enough to out-jump defenders in the NFL, linemen who aren't strong enough. Like every position has thresholds, and he's right there. Like from the testing and some of the tape, I think he has functional speed, but he's going to have to be right every time. And that's not just instincts, that's also angles. Like everything's going to have to be perfect for him. And if we know anything about the NFL, it's that things are rarely perfect. So if he proves to be one of those guys that's really resourceful, really smart, really tough, he's going to get his 53-man spot. It's probably going to be as a special teamer. Backup third safety. Maybe he comes in, plays for somebody who's injured and has a good couple of years as a starter. We've seen that progression. Daniel Sorensen is a guy that, followed that path in college, ended up playing with the Chiefs, ended up signing another contract with them, and then signing with another team. Like it is possible. Sorensen was a better athlete. I will say that. What's that?
Reed Blankenship also followed that
Reed,
similar path,
but
right?
Reed is bigger than Sebastian, and he was faster as well. So, and I think his instincts are a little bit better too. Sebastian's he's a good player, and it is hard for good players in the NFL because the NFL is elite players across the board. One of the things that all players will tell you, and again, we interview players at events like the Shrine Bowl and the Combine and whatever else, and then we see them again later. We run into them, whether it's at a game or some event, and I like catching up with those guys and seeing how their first couple of years have gone. And one of the things when I ask them about the biggest jump, that they do talk about the mental load of not only the playbook but being a pro and just the change and shift, but everybody talks about the speed. And it's not just the speed of players, but the speed of play, like how fast the game is played at every down. And the fact that no matter where you look in a locker room, everybody was the best player in the conference. Everybody was a national award winner. Everybody was their school's all-time leader in catches. Like it doesn't matter. You could be talking about the special teamers. You could be talking about the starters. Like everybody is the best football player you've ever seen. And you're in that room now. So you, by extension, need to be the very best version of yourself. And Sebastian's going to have to push because he's not at the upper limits of that. Can he make an NFL
He's
team?
also older, so that doesn't work in his favor as well.
I think age is I'm a little different with age than a lot of analysts are.
You think it's overrated as a measuring point?
Changing. Game is changing, right? So NIL, they have more eligibility in college. They're playing longer than ever on average. We see guys with, I keep track of each school that a guy's been to in my draft database. And I had to make that column wider this year because there are guys with like 5 schools. And that's not terribly uncommon anymore to see guys with 3 schools or 4 schools. It used to be, if you saw that, it was a red flag. There was a reason that they'd been, kicked out and had their eligibility moved down the road to someplace else. It's not so anymore with the transfer portal and NIL. So it's changing. The other thing is sports science continues to move on. We continue to see guys play better later into their careers. Again, depending on position, quarterbacks are playing, well into their late 30s, very well, not dropping off in the way they were. Haven't really seen running backs for the most part outside of unicorns like Derrick Henry sort of surpass that 30, 31 age season. So that's a worry if you're a running back. And again, full speed positions, we do see decline. Like we see guys that have been in the NFL for like 12 years and they're playing safety and they have, quote unquote, but also truly lost a step. They're not as fast. So I don't worry about age so much depending on position. With Castro, I don't think it's a glaring red flag. Some people might say, oh, you want him younger. I'm with you. I just want better football players. So if he was a great football player and he was a couple of years older, I wouldn't care so much. It's more that he is an average football player. And I don't care so much about his age. I just care about the fact that threshold is going to be tough for him to overcome.
When I was thinking about like a realistic possibility where he might make the roster, the team I came up with was the Vikings. They need help at the safety position. They have someone playing in Josh Metellus, who's very versatile. He plays a lot of roles. He was a 6th round pick. So Brian Flores has shown that if a player can play better than the place where he was drafted, then he will give them the opportunity. Ivan Pace Jr. is another player who comes to mind. Obviously, I'm not saying that will happen, but if there is a chance, I think that might be the team where that happens.
Well, you talked about his versatility too, and a lot of people, I had him listed as a safety in the beginning of the process. I don't really anymore. I have him listed as a slot because that's where he played the vast majority of his alignments in college was either in the slot or as a box safety, which is only a couple of yards different in terms of alignment. But like, I think 400, almost 500 of his 700 total snaps were in those 2 alignments, most of them in the slot. So he's really a slot player at heart. And you talked about him having that versatility, being able to, be part of the run fit and all that good stuff. So he's one of those guys that is going to have to make a living being tough and mixing it up near the line because he can't necessarily run with guys down the field. There's a lot of plays on tape where guys get by him and, it's college. So the quarterback just doesn't throw it, which is good. In the pros, that's a touchdown. That much separation that far down the field is a touchdown. So yeah. And his NFL passer rating against is over 100. It's like 107 or something. So, again, he's going to have to find his niche. He's going to have to be tough. He's going to have to be smart. He's probably better in those short areas, supporting against the run in a somewhat lighter box. He can run with tight ends. Like you said, he's got good instincts. He's played on the other side of the ball. He understands what the offense is trying to do. But even with that, he can't always get there. And that's going to be tough for some coaches to overcome. So he's going to be an injury fill-in. He's going to be a special teamer. I'm interested to see where he goes. And look, the NFL is not the only league. Could he end up playing professional football in one of the other leagues? I think he absolutely could because a lot of those attributes are going to be magnified and a lot of his deficiencies are going to be masked a little bit, not a ton, but some.
Maybe even in the Mexican league later on.
There you go.
I was looking at his profile as you were talking about his usage. He had more snaps in the defensive line than he did as a deep safety. So his role was closer to the line of scrimmage.
Was the safety balance, and I'm always looking at that. How often they played deep, how often they played in the box, and that can be misleading with the too high stuff because that's bleeding into college as well. It used to be more defined, and it still is in some college defensive schemes. But when a guy has 700, 500, 700 total defensive snaps, and he's played 20 as a free safety, I'm not grading that guy as a free safety. That was just some odd rotation where he was like, oh, we don't have anybody deep, and he dropped back. So it's not his strength. Obviously, that's not the way they chose to use him. So you have to then find out, well, what is he? Because there are a lot of guys that, Saban really started it at Alabama with the star position, which was not a nickel, not a safety, but kind of a hybrid of the two. And more colleges, as the Saban doctrine has spread throughout college football over the last 15, 20 years, use that role now. And you really have to see, well, how is this guy being used so that you have a a more accurate way to sort of assess, hey, these are his skills and this is his potential alignment in the league.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited about him because there aren't a lot of Mexican players in the NFL. So anytime I see
there's
someone...
some good ones though. That's the thing I really like. When I was digging in, I was like, okay, we got Fred Warner, we got Julian Love, who I didn't know had Mexican heritage as well as Cuban heritage. So Steve Avila, Elijah Vera Tucker, Will Hernandez, Malcolm Rodriguez, plus, a couple kickers and punters. Like, there's some quality players, not a ton in terms of overall representation, but like those guys are all starters.
and we also claim Elijah Arroyo because he learned to play in Cancun. So
there you go.
Yeah,
perfect. I actually saw
another player with Mexican heritage.